Hi there. In this video, we're going to go over the ways that caffeine and alcohol may be affecting your menstrual cycles. So these substances were not specifically addressed in the earlier chapters of my Better Cycles by the Forkful ebook, but as we know, they're ubiquitous in our daily lives. So maybe you've been wondering if your morning coffee or evening wine have been contributing to those cyclical headaches, cramps, heavy periods that you've been experiencing. Perhaps you've even been considering switching over to decaf or matcha, experimenting with reducing your alcohol consumption. Whatever brings you here, this video is intended to give you the education so that you can make your own informed decision. We're gonna start off with caffeine. We're talking about coffee, energy drinks, soda, black and green tea. So the research has not come up with a definitive conclusion if caffeine is in or out for menstrual cycles. And that just means it all depends. This is frustrating advice, I know, but it all has a lot to do with what kind of caffeinated beverage are you choosing? How often are you drinking it? What time of day are you drinking it? And then just in the setting of your overall picture of health. So follow along here. We're gonna go through the different factors that can help you make a decision. Before you come at me with your coffee cups, I'm starting out with the positives. So number one, organic black coffee contains antioxidants, which can help reduce inflammation. We know that inflammation equals period problems, and we're always striving to reduce that inflammatory burden. That being said, if you aren't a caffeine drinker, you don't necessarily need to pick up coffee because you can get those antioxidants from rainbow vegetables that should already be plentiful in your diet. Number two, caffeine improves insulin sensitivity, meaning that it encourages the body to make use of glucose available in your bloodstream, but at a quicker rate. So this makes sense because caffeine's a stimulant, therefore it's gonna burn through energy quicker. So theoretically, you could persuade your body to like gobble up a load of glucose, say from a pancake that you ate at breakfast, with just the right dose of caffeine. But if you refer back to the action steps in chapter 3, you can check out how to prevent that nosedive into the blood sugar crash. There's also substantial evidence that timing caffeine with exercise can improve your results. Regulating effect can help build muscle. So that's beyond the scope of this video, but something to be aware of if you're interested in fitness. All right, let's move on to the cautionary effects of caffeine. So number one, we talked about estrogen metabolism in chapter 4. The liver utilizes a specific enzyme called cytochrome P450 to break down estrogen into its metabolites. Guess who else needs that enzyme to be broken down? Caffeine. So this can be a problem for some women because there is a genetic variation that produces a reduced effectiveness of cytochrome P450 and reduced numbers of the enzyme. So you might know that you have this variation from the popular commercial genetic test kits like Ancestry, or you can just make an assumption if you're the kind of person that has a high sensitivity to caffeine. Like you might feel jittery, have trouble falling asleep, experience more of those intestinal discomfort issues after drinking coffee. And if you have the genetic variation, then you're not gonna have as many cytochrome P450 workers in your liver to be available. So high caffeine consumption on top of a continued demand for estrogen metabolism can really stress the work capacity of P450. So that's gonna result in a slower clearance of caffeine, giving you that tired but wired, jittery feeling. Meanwhile, the backlog in processing estrogen can lead to estrogen dominance. You can check back to page 34 if you need a refresher on that one. All right, number two, skipping back to caffeine's effect on our blood glucose levels. Those coffees you drink on an empty stomach or the ones that you have in the middle of the afternoon could be sending you on a blood sugar roller coaster. Without a solid meal of protein, fat, and fiber, your body has nothing to buffer the stimulating effect of caffeine. So then that freely available glucose hits your bloodstream fast and hard, and that can cause you to plummet into a blood sugar crash. Do you know what hormone gets released during a blood sugar crash? It's cortisol, the stress hormone. And this is really handy in the short term, just to like get you through that little period. But in the long term, it really just perpetuates the roller coaster effect. So it becomes this whole messy, vicious cycle. And if that persists for too long, it can affect your production of progesterone. So low progesterone can leave you with PMS symptoms, a shorter cycle length, spotting before your period, and heavy or prolonged menstrual bleeds. So I'm gonna go into more details on that in the stress and sleep video, but the bottom line is that caffeine can disrupt your blood sugar regulation and increase your cortisol production, which may impact your blood progesterone levels. And then let's just state the obvious. I hope after everything we talked about in chapters 2 through 4, you already know that the high sugar content in those cafe lattes and energy drinks and sodas are going to put you overboard and fast track inflammation. So frequently consuming these beverages is likely going to contribute to your cycle issues. I don't want to harp on that too much. I think you get the point. Let's move on to alcohol. I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid off here. There is no magical number of drinks or type of drink that will allow you to completely dodge the effects of alcohol. You could make an argument that there is a psychosocial health benefit from partaking in alcohol in a community setting. Like, I'll buy that. I'm a holistic practitioner. I can totally see that psychosocial well-being is part of your overall well-being. But if we're just talking about physiological health, there is no benefit of consuming alcohol that's going to outweigh avoiding alcohol. Someone on the internet might come after me for that statement, and they'll probably quote like the resveratrol content of red wine or something, but you can get antioxidants from a lot of other places that your liver doesn't consider toxic. So what exactly is it about alcohol consumption that can lead to menstrual cycle issues? The effects aren't too different from caffeine, really. So number one, alcohol is processed in the liver by cytochrome P450. Yep, that same little guy is responsible for caffeine, alcohol, estrogen, and then like a whole bunch of other things like medications and stuff. That's a pretty hefty workload, especially if you're drinking caffeine and alcohol on the daily. So your body views alcohol as a toxin, and that gets ASAP detox status. Depending on how much and how often you're consuming alcohol, could push estrogen metabolism to the back burner. So research studies have found that moderate alcohol consumption can increase estrogen levels, possibly due to alcohol's interference with estrogen detoxification and its ability to convert testosterone into estrogen. The results from one study were particularly stunning. The researchers found that a single alcoholic drink increased estrogen levels by 5%, and then 4 or more. The results from one study were particularly stunning. The researchers found that a single alcoholic drink increased estrogen levels by 5%, and then 4 or more drinks increased levels by 60%. So if you're thinking that sounds like a recipe for estrogen dominance, yeah, you're on point. All right, number 2. Many alcoholic drinks come with their own heavy dose of carbs, either from the mixers or the alcohol itself. We already know that boluses of glucose can have a dramatic impact on our blood sugar regulations. So then just follow that down the line to the overproduction of cortisol and reduced production of progesterone, and you've got cycle issues. And let's just circle back to those antioxidants in the red wine for a second. Alcohol significantly depletes your chief antioxidant, which is this thing called glutathione, as it's being detoxed by the liver. So glutathione is a super powerful antioxidant and immune regulator. It primarily cleans up free radicals and toxins, but it also manages those inflammatory cytokines like the kind that cause your PMS symptoms. So alcohol consumption creates inflammation on its own accord, and then it's going to wipe out your body's primary means of dealing with that inflammation. It's a double whammy. So it really makes me question, like, does that little bit of resveratrol really make a difference? All right, what are we gonna do about this? So, because coffee dates and wine nights with the girls, like, they're not going away. And if caffeine and alcohol bring joy to your life, then by all means continue. You're a grown-ass woman, and now you have the information to make an informed decision. But if you want to make some adjustments for your menstrual health, here's a couple things you could try. Number one, save your morning coffee until after you've eaten breakfast, and that breakfast should include protein, fat, and fiber. Number two, opt for organic coffee and choose your add-ins with care. So we're looking for little to no added sugar and a full fat organic creamer to help keep your blood sugar stable. Number three, women who are particularly sensitive to caffeine, have difficulty regulating their blood sugar levels, and or are dealing with symptoms of estrogen dominance, may want to trial reducing or eliminating caffeine for a couple months and just see how that helps. Number four, you can eat a full meal or at least a protein-centered snack before drinking alcohol to reduce the impact on your blood sugar levels. That way your liver isn't dealing with alcohol, estrogen, and trying to keep your blood sugar stable. And lastly, just be mindful about how much you're drinking, how many times in a week, and what types of alcohol. So I hope you found this information helpful and you can pick out a new habit or two that will get you a little further along in your health journey. I would just encourage you to try any adjustments for a period of 1 to 3 months, see how that affects your cycles. This is going to give you that real-time feedback that will help you decide on next steps for your health.